Here is a brief glimpse at the history of one of the world's greatest civilizations, England. The slides cover England's shaping and evolution from prehistory to modern age. After the Celts' invasion of the Isles, the Breton tribes were conquered by the Romans, starting with 43 AD. The Roman rule lasted until 410 AD. The Britons struggled to resist the invasion, the most noticeable rebellion being the one led by Queen Boudicca in 60 AD. During the 400-year stay on the British Isles, the Romans contributed to the development and flourishing of the Britons. During this period, Christianity begins to spread. After the Roman withdrawal, the Anglo-Saxons invaded the island and ruled from 410 to 1066. They divided the territory into 7 kingdoms, the most important of which being Wessex. King Alfred the Great stands out as the most prominent personality of that era. He defended England from the Viking invasions and had a crucial contribution to the cultural and educational life. At his order, the monk Bede wrote the ecclesiastical history of England. The first Anglo-Saxon version of the Bible is also written in this period. In 1066, William of Normandy defeated Harold Godwinson, the Anglo-Saxon king, at the Battle of Hastings, starting the Norman rule. He became King William I. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms were now united under a single reign. The Norman conquest and the early medieval period, 1066 to 1154. King William I consolidates power. In 1086, the Domesday Book is written with a view to recording landholdings. Kings William II and Henry I follow, strengthening authority. The Plantagenet dynasty and Magna Carta, 1154-1399. King Henry II expands territories and makes legal reforms. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Becket, is killed in Canterbury Cathedral by the king's men after the conflict with Henry II. He later becomes a saint. Richard I, also known as the Lionheart, reigns briefly, followed by King John, during whose rule Magna Carta is issued. Magna Carta limits the power of the king and establishes rights for the nobles. The period is also marked by the reigns of Kings Edward I, Edward II, Edward III, and the wars with Scotland and France. The Black Death, 1349, kills a third of the population. The 100 Years' War begins, 1337-1453. The Wars of the Roses and the late medieval period, 1399-1485. The era witnesses the conflict between the houses of Lancaster and York. The Battle of Agincourt, 1415, marked a major English victory in the 100 Years' War between the kingdoms of England and France. Another important event took place in 1485 when King Richard III was killed at the Battle of Bosworth Field. Henry Tudor becomes King Henry VII, starting the Tudor dynasty. The Tudor period, 1485-1603. King Henry VII stabilizes the kingdom. His son Henry VIII followed him. King Henry VIII's reign was marked by religious upheaval. He breaks from the Catholic Church on personal grounds as he wanted to divorce his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, and the Pope wouldn't allow it. His daughter from his second marriage to Anne Boleyn, Elizabeth I, 1558-1603, leads England to a golden age. Arts flourish, and the Spanish Armada is defeated in 1588. Now is also the dawn of the powerful English Empire. The Stuart period, the Civil War, and the Revolution, 1603-1714. King James VI of Scotland inherits the English throne, becoming King James I of England. Now, the two kingdoms were united under a single monarch, but kept their parliaments separate. King James I and King Charles I face conflicts with the Parliament. The English Civil War breaks out in 1642 and lasts until 1651. It leads to the execution of King Charles I, 1649. The Commonwealth period begins and the Protectorate under the leadership of Oliver Cromwell. In 1660, the monarchy is restored and Charles II becomes king, marking the end of the Republic. So the English Republic lasted for only 11 years, the only ones in its entire history that England ceased to be a monarchy. The Scottish Parliament signed the Treaty of Union with England in 1706. The early stages of the Industrial Revolution begin in the late 17th century. The Georgian period, 1714 to 1830. King George I was the first monarch of the Hanoverian dynasty. King George II was the last British monarch born outside the Great Britain. King George III lost the American colonies during his reign. The Industrial Revolution begins in Britain, changing society and economy. The Georgian period was marked by political and military conflicts, including the American Revolution. The Victorian period, 1837-1901. Queen Victoria was the longest reigning British monarch of the time. The Victorian era is the peak of the British Empire, expanding globally. Britain undergoes rapid industrialization and urbanization. The social reforms are made, including the abolition of slavery and workers' rights. Technological innovations are in full swing: steam engines, railways, and telegraphs. The modern age, 1901 up to the present. The reign of Edward VII, 1901-1910, marks the end of the Victorian era and the beginning of the Edwardian period. World War I takes place between 1914 and 1918. This devastating conflict leads to social and political changes in England and the entire Europe. During the interwar War period, Great Britain witnesses economic struggles, the rise of the Labour Party, and the expansion of the women's rights. World War II breaks out in 1939 and lasts until 1945. England plays a central role in defeating the Axis powers. London suffers heavy bombing. The post-war era implies decolonization, with many colonies gaining independence. In 1948, the national health system is created. Queen Elizabeth II was the longest-reigning monarch from 1952 to 2022. Her son, Charles, succeeded her to the throne and became King Charles III in 2022. And now I'm going to give you a test consisting of a multiple-choice exercise. You are supposed to circle the correct answer, and in a few seconds you can verify it on the slide. The first question: when did the Romans begin their conquest of Britain? A. 55 BC, B. 43 AD, C. 410 AD, D. 1066 AD. The second question: who led a famous revolt against the Romans in 60 AD? A. Queen Elizabeth I, B. Queen Victoria, C. Queen Boudica, D. Queen Anne. What document limited the power of the English king in 1215? The Bill of Rights, the Magna Carta, the Domesday Book, the English Constitution. 4. The Battle of Hastings in 1066 was won by A. Alfred the Great, B. William the Conqueror, C. Richard the Lionheart, and D. Henry VIII. Which Tudor monarch established the Church of England? A. Henry VII, B. Henry VIII, C. Elizabeth I, D. Mary I. What major event happened during the Stuart period? A. The Industrial Revolution, B. The Glorious Revolution, C. The signing of the Magna Carta, D. The defeat of the Spanish Armada. 7. Which monarch lost the American colonies? A. George I, B. George II, C. George III, D. George IV. The Victorian era was known for A. The Norman Conquest, B. The English Civil War, C. Industrialization and social reform, D. The signing of the Magna Carta.